Well, hi YouTube, Brian James, that Micro Four Thirds guy with you once again, and I'm here in my back garden at dusk. Not that I want to be at my back garden at dusk making a video, but the trouble is I recorded this video that I'm making now 2 days ago, and that was great, and I did a good little video, I thought, until I tried taking it off the SD card. I found I couldn't transfer it. So here we are again, trying again. So, the title, as you'll probably see, is to do about my favourite event photography lenses. And I'll tell you what I'm meaning by event photography before we get any further. I used to be a press officer. I used to be in charge of the media communications for the Air Cadets in Cumbria and Lancashire. And I also used to be in charge of communications for Rotary International in Cumbria and Lancashire areas, and that entailed a certain amount of dealing with the press. And if you remember, I did a video just a little while ago saying about how disappointed I was in how we can connect phones and cameras together. And I think a few people misunderstood what I was getting at there. It wasn't that I don't have the technical skills to do it. I have, and some in spare, in fact, because I've had an IT company in the past. I do understand computers, I program computers, I've worked out all sorts of bits and pieces on communication skills. You know, we're not going to go down that, but basically I know what I'm on about to a large extent. But I just find it messy. I find the whole system between camera and mobile device incredibly messy. And part of the reason I came to that conclusion was, as I say, I used to cover the media for a couple of organisations. And one of the things I really needed to do if I was doing an event was to be able to get that data from the camera's card onto some sort of media, whether it be social media, whether it be sent off to the press, whether it be straight out to be printed. I needed something to do that very, very quickly and very, very easily. Now, I'm not going to go further onto that. That was where some of my problem lay. However, one of the things I really did need was the ability to cover events. Now, events could be something newsworthy, in which case I did need it straight off to a news organisation very quickly. Or it could be that I was doing a social event where we've got lots of people, fundraisers for instance, or military dining in evenings, or whatever it was that we're doing. And I needed to be able to get those photographs in and processed and available. And to do that, I didn't want to be necessarily messing around too much. So what lenses do I use? When I was doing most of this, I was actually shooting Canon, I better hasten to add, rather than Micro Four Thirds. But I have done a couple of events recently, and that's what prompted me the other day, because I did an event and I had to sit down and work out which lenses I really wanted to take along for that event and why. And I came to a couple of conclusions, and hopefully, if you're doing any sort of event photography, this will be up your street. Now, event photography isn't press photography. It's a big difference on that. As I say, it could be out doing a family event. It could be out doing some sort of local club that you're involved in to get there to record their event or to publicise their event, whatever it is. But there's a few golden sort of ways to look at it, golden rules as we look at it. First of all, you've got to blend in. Why do we want to blend in? Because you're not the centre of the event. You're not the important thing on the event. The event is the important thing, and the reason for that event is the important thing. The idiot with the camera walking around taking snaps is not. So you want to blend in to a large extent. So I try not to take huge cameras, or rather I try not to take huge lenses, because cameras themselves, they're much of a muchness these days, but the lenses can make a big difference on size. And I went out the other day, I was doing something down at Carlisle Cathedral, which I've featured before, and I did an event there, and it was a very casual event, so I wasn't in shirt and tie. It was a nice casual summertime event, so I just went in a polo shirt, good polo shirt, and took a couple of cameras. And I didn't want to have cameras hanging everywhere. My idea of having cameras is a maximum of 2, and that's only just so you're not messing around changing lenses. So the first lens that I decided I was going to take was this one. I've just got this back from my friend Paul. He's borrowed it for a little while. It was perfect time to get it back. And this is my 14-140 Lumix f3.5 to 5.6. Now, it's not the fastest lens on the planet, but it's a great little lens. It's reasonably compact, and even when it's fully extended, it's not looking silly large. You know, if you bring this up to your eye, you're not looking like some paparazzi. And that's an important thing. You're not there as paparazzi. You're not there to get the killer shot. You're there to cover an event. Big difference. And depending on where it is, most of these events tend to have reasonable light. There are a few different ones. If you're covering, say, a music event, you may not have good light, or it may be distinctly coloured light for a music event. But generally, a straightforward f3.5 to 5.6 lens is good enough. I tend to use aperture priority, and I also use auto ISO too, and I have it limited, depending on what the camera is, to about 6400 or 12800, depending on the camera. My G9 has pretty good low light capability, 4-4 I have this to about 12,800. Some of the other cameras, my EM1 Mark 1 for instance, I tend to leave that on about 6400 as a maximum. Don't be afraid by that though, because we're not going out to studio shots. We're not trying to get this ISO 200 best possible thing, minimum noise. We can get away with an awful lot of things when we're taking event photographs, because we're more interested in getting the shot than we are necessarily about having superb quality. So my first choice is a camera, auto ISO, aperture priority, and I haven't been known to leave it on full program, because that will give you an awful lot of latitude just to get the shot quickly and get it out of the way. But using this, using a super zoom is, I think, great. If I had my choice, if I was buying a lens now, I'd be buying the 12 to 200 Olympus, which I tested in December. There's a link above to that one. So I would be going for that particular one. Now, before I go to the rest of the lenses and cameras, don't forget, if you're enjoying these videos and you get anything out of them, please give me a big thumbs up, and if you can, leave us a comment as well. The comments really are good, because I read the comments, and other people read the comments more importantly, and that really does help the YouTube's algorithms to get these videos to more and more people. And if you're not a subscriber, please join the 8,500 plus subscribers. I'm desperately trying to get 10,000 subscribers. 8,500 at the minute. Join the merry band of subscribers by hitting the subscribe button below. Now, back to the cameras and lenses. The other lens I tend to take tends to be a faster lens. And if I do take two lenses, I'll take maybe a 25mm and something a little bit wider, say my 17mm or my 14mm. Now, I tend to like the 17mm because I don't need to take a couple. 17's a wide enough lens. It's a 34mm equivalent on full frame. So it's a nice wideish lens without getting silly wide. And why do I need a wider lens rather than, say, the 25, the 4/3 equivalent of nifty 50? Well, very, very simple, because inside, if you're taking photographs inside, the 25 can be a little bit too tight. It can really be a little bit too far in. The 17 gives a little bit more breadth, and that's great. You could also use the 15mm Lumix, because, again, a superb lens for this. So the 15 or the 17 I find is a nice sweet spot for that. Start going smaller, start going lower down the scale, and you suddenly find that you're getting more distortions coming in. So you've got to be more careful. That makes things a little bit more difficult. But what you do need is a really good, wide-ranging set of lenses. So if we're going to go for the prime lens, and I'll keep on my second camera, the 15mm Lumix or the 17mm Olympus Ideal, f1.7, f1.8, it's a great maximum aperture on that, because that gives you a lot of low light capability, and combined again with the auto ISO, just gives you the ability to get that shot inside and easy. Now, why did I say about going for something like the 12 to 200, or as I say, this 14 to 140? Well, very simple. On something like that, you've got I say the 12 to 200, you've got a 24 to 400 millimeter focal length range, equivalent on full frame. So if you're going to be doing something like that, you've got a huge, great big range you can use. But again, they're not silly big. They're easy to control and easy to use. So I tend to use those primarily. If I'm going to be doing something, I tend to take the best camera body I can, G9 or my EM1 Mark 2. That's what I've got at the moment, and I find these great. And as a second camera, I'll either use my EM1 Mark 1 or my GX8 as a second camera popped in my pocket with that prime on. And when I say popped in my pocket, I mean in my pocket. It's out the way. You're not being seen by a whole lot of people. You're not taking the scene over. You're filming it out and being part of the event. So that's the sort of things that I'm using. Again, I said the 14 to 140, that's what? That's 28 to 280 equivalent. So still a huge, great big range if you're on full frame. So that I find gives me everything I need for events. So what sort of things am I doing and what am I looking out for when I'm doing an event? Well, basically, I could be doing anything. I could be doing real detail shots. If somebody's signing a contract or signing whatever it is on the table, I want to be able to get in there, get in tight and be able to see it and see it clearly and get that sort of shot. It may be a case that I'm doing a group. And if you are doing a group, please be careful on group shots. If you've never done group shots before, have a bit of a think about them. Don't get people too close to the edges. When people are on these very edge parts, that's dangerous. If you're going to get to the point of that, if you've got everybody standing in a straight line, and you're focused, especially if you're focused at a particularly open aperture, say if you're at the f3.5 end on this, because it's 14mm on this, it's f3.5, that's great. But when you've got the person in the middle in focus, the distance between you and them is set there. If you use the old Pythagoras and you work out the distance between you and the people at the extremes on the ends, compared to that, they're going to be much further away in real terms. And what's going to happen is they'll become soft. So what you can do on that, be careful. First of all, get them in a little bit, because effectively what you're doing is you're giving yourself some leeway to crop in should you need to. But also, the fact is that because you're further away and getting them further in, there's a better chance of being in focus. And also try closing your aperture down a little bit there, f5.6, f6.3. That's going to give you the opportunity to get everybody in focus. And when you get that group shot, everybody's going to be happy. Good thing to remember on that one. The other thing I tend to do when I'm doing photographs in events is it could be all sorts. The connectivity really comes in for me at this point, because if I'm doing something which is a newsworthy event, I want to be able to get those photographs very, very quickly off the camera, processed in some way just to brighten them up a little bit. And I don't tend to do too much. I'm not really worried about super fantastic processing. I want to get them in. Very small tweaks just to get everything, all the levels about right. Then I want to get them off to the press organisation. And this is where I was saying about the communications being an important thing for me. If I've got really good communication between the camera and my iPad, because it's an iPad I tend to use for most of my stuff, or my phone, I can get the photos off, transferred quickly, and then I can adjust them to whatever I need. And I can then get them into email, send them out with a story, and get it straight out to the press organisation, the local press or the specialist magazine, whatever it is you want to do, because editors don't wait around for you. But of course, not all event photography is a newsworthy item. Some of it has different things. And some of the things that I've been doing when I've been to events which are, say, fundraisers. When I've done fundraisers in the past, they can be fantastic, because they're really good. If you're going to be doing something like this, it's a really good opportunity for income for yourself, because you can sell photographs from the event to people. But also, it gives you the opportunity, if you're not selling them, to be able to give something back. If it's a charitable event, it's something they can use for publicity. But quite often when I'm doing charity dinners, for instance, charity balls, I'll be going around taking photographs at the tables. And then what I want to do is get them off the camera very, very quickly onto a computer at the event so they can be seen on a screen. And also what I'll do on that is I'll have printing facilities laid on. So I want to get them in, gently processed, so we can see everything in there, get them onto a computer screen so that people can come up and pick what they want to do. And what you can then do is you can print off straight away, and before they leave, they've got a print of them at the event. So if you've got a group of friends, you can take that photograph of the group of friends, they can all buy one. The monies can be either going to you or going straight into the event, so it's a great fundraising thing for the event. But you've got to have a fast turnaround time. It's got to be slick, it's got to be easy. So you've got to take the photographs, get them in, quickly processed, straight through and onto the screen so people can see them, and then out. The other thing you can do is just hand little slips of paper out, and just, whatever the number of the shot is. If you keep an eye on the number of the shot in the display, you can look on the display and you can say, okay, the 36. There we are. A little slip of paper, 36. If you want the print, that's what you come up with. That's the one with you on. So they don't even need to necessarily see it on the screen, or they can choose it. So back to the story that I was saying before as to why I'm doing this. At dusk, in my back garden. The problems that you do sometimes get is with memory cards. I have a memory card in my little G100 I was using the other day. I did a really good video saying the same thing as I've just said here. And when I came to put it on my iPad, it didn't want to work. I couldn't get the file transferred, whether I was using it through the direct connection with putting a memory card into a memory card reader, or whether I was trying to do it through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. I just couldn't get it on. The file was corrupted in some way, and I don't know why. And that's sort of indicative as to why we do things and work in certain ways, because that would have been a dead loss. So if you're doing event photography, one of the reasons I do take the G9 and the M1 Mark II is if I pop this open, dual card slots. I'm not a super fan of dual card slots for normal photography. I really must put that out. But when I used to be shooting photographs of, say, of schools, when I was doing school portraits, or if I'm doing events where people are relying on it, 2 cards, dual right to those cards, essential for me, because if one does have a problem, I've got a good chance that the other one will be fine and I'll be able to get the information off. And the other day on the G100 only has a single card slot, which for doing these videos isn't so bad. It just means that I've got to come out in the garden at dusk and re-record the video. But that's by the by. It doesn't really worry me too much. Now, if you've gained anything from this channel, if you want to support it, the channel is slowly growing, and I really do appreciate everything that's happening on this. But there are some ways you can give a little bit of financial support to keep the channel going. If you look in the box below, if you look in the details below, you'll find that there's a couple of links. One is a PayPal link if you want to buy me a one-off payment for a cup of coffee or something like that, just to help the channel go, which goes towards fuel. I say a cup of coffee. I always say buy me a cup of coffee. It seems to be the in thing on YouTube to buy a coffee. I do go through a lot of coffee though. Probably too much coffee. Although I have started going decaf coffee, so that's probably saved me a little bit. But yes, I do go through rather a lot of coffee. However, if you want to buy me a coffee or help towards the fuel for my vehicle to get out to some of these shoots, then there's a chance of one-off link. Do it through PayPal, really appreciate it. You can also start it off doing super thanks. So you'll find there's a super thanks button below. If you want to hit something on the super thanks and a donation, again for a one-off, that's fantastic and that's appreciated. However, there's also, if you want to have a little bit more involvement in the channel, there's my Patreon links below. And there's a link for Patreon. And these wonderful people here have already subscribed to my Patreon channel. And you could do too. There's 3 different levels. Have a look on the link and choose which level you want and what you want from it. And it could be yours. My final points on the recommendations. Which lenses would I take? And which lenses did I take? Well, if I was buying lenses for this, I'd probably be buying a super zoom like the 12-200. I don't have a 12-200, so I use my 14-140 very, very successfully. That was on my G9. Works really well on that because I've got stability control, and most of it was set auto, as I've said before. Auto ISO, aperture priority. White balance I tend to leave, if I'm outside to a cloudy day, I tend to leave it at 1, and I can adjust the white balance later if I want to, but it gives consistency on that. So I tend to leave the white balance very much on a fixed setting so that I can alter it later rather than altering the camera and creating inconsistencies. That's on my main camera. My secondary camera, GX8, with my 17mm Olympus lens. As I say, if I would possibly even go to the 15mm Lumix, just for that extra little bit of width, but not too wide so you get distortions. I hate too much distortion when it comes to people. And that's pretty much it. The GX8 stuck in my pocket as much as possible rather than a second strap. And again, keep yourself as inconspicuous as possible. And if you have to come out the woodwork and talk and see people, talk to them, smile at them, let them know what you're doing. And if you are doing something as a fundraiser, that actually is a good time to make yourself known rather than being conspicuous, because you want to actually get it out there that the funds which you raise that come from anything you do is going back into the charity or whatever it is you're raising funds for. Till the next time, if you've taken any event photos, I wish you best of success on that. But keep on taking your camera out, whatever photography you're doing, and keep on having fun with your photos. See you. Bye-bye.